Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Paris Charles de Gaulle.
The cabin crew prepared for arrival and cross check, thank you.
Bienvenue à bord de Roissy-Bus. Assurez-vous d'un bord Charles de Gaulle. Cet autobus est direct et sans arrêt jusqu'à Paris Opéra.
Welcome aboard Roissy-Bus.
Grazie di obliterare il biglietto e di conservarlo fino a destinazione. D'abord, merci d'avoir choisi Roissy-Bus. Nous espérons que vous avez fait un agréable voyage. À bientôt.
I spent a lot of time as a tourist, living out of backpacks and suitcases, sleeping in hostels and hotels and departure lounges, hoping for mail at the Posta Restante and American Express, changing Canadian dollars for rupees, francs, guilders, Deutschmarks and euros, not speaking the language, baffled by the menus, and getting lost, always getting lost.
So basically we get started right here. You got the Pantheon right behind you.
And where are we going?
So I'll take you inside to show you that. It's kind of cool.
The architecture seems very different.
Notre Dame de Paris. It's parvis or square from the Latin para.
Every year, more than 20 million tourists visit Paris, shuffling off planes and trains and buses into the most popular tourist destination on earth. Some of us are seeing Paris for the first time. Others are repeat visitors. Some will visit Paris this one time only, in a couple days or a week, trying to see as much as they can. We're taking a break from our normal routine. We see the famous sights. We eat new foods. And some of us dream of the different life we might have if we lived here. Like most people who come to Paris for the first time, I already knew about the Eiffel Tower and Notre Dame. Paris was Quasimodo and Robespierre, Coco Chanel and Marcel Marceau, Audrey Hepburn and Audrey Tautou. As tourists, we don't come to discover Paris so much as seek out its iconic versions. The city of light, of art and gastronomy and fashion. Paris, the movable feast. Branded by Piaf songs, Douaneau photographs and Truffaut films. Sartre scribbling in the café. Flaneurs on the grand boulevards. A free man in Paris, unfettered and alive.
I think you have expectations from things like movies, that you hear Paris is like the city of love and things like that.
As a girl, I think it's a very romantic city, so I think it's kind of exciting to come and have an adventure.
What I expected it to be like and what I visualised it to be like, that's what it was. The nice romantic, old, sophisticated city with beautiful architecture and a lot of history.
Fred Astaire singing Paris Loves Lovers. It's just immortalized. It's a very romantic city full of love, full of history, full of art, full of wine and pastry. And I feel like it's just a very kind of like sexy, love-filled city. We should stay at the Eiffel Tower tomorrow night until it's dark.
We should just go. While they said the best time to catch it was like an hour before sunset.
We have to do Versailles. I mean,
we would kill ourselves. We would just regret it.
That's.
Maybe we should do Montmartre today.
Bibliothèque is library.
Yeah.
National Library.
We also need to find. That's pretty.
The imposing architectural ensemble of
Invalides.
Okay.
So definitely not a hotel.
Not a hotel.
Wow. Oh my god. It's our first time though to Paris.
Yeah. We did a pretty intense 2-year teaching program in Memphis, where they place you in kind of the most challenging schools in the area. And so we just finished it, so we were kind of celebrating.
Yep. We took off immediately after the last day of school to fly to London. We spent 9 days in London, and this is our last half, 6 days in Paris.
We have a literal calendar where we have scheduled when we will do the touristy things on what day.
It really was blank when we arrived. I mean, we really didn't have anything. We have 2 things. We have a list of stuff to get done, and then the calendar. The calendar was blank until we start putting things from the list onto the calendar.
Yeah.
Once we figured out where things are. So we're gonna kind of play it like on a 2-prong kind of way, like the touristy stuff, and then also just try to get away from that and see how
the neighborhood's like.
Yeah, how French people live, I guess. What they do in the evenings when they get off of work, where they sit, what they eat.
Place de la Concorde is labeled 8.
No way, a 3,300-year-old.
The Temple of Ramses in Egypt.
No way.
But it says pink granite. Is that pink? Yeah. I do not see pink at all. I see straight up gray.
It's 3,000 years old. Give it a break.
Wow. Well, there we go.
We are going to head up to Montmartre and see what we can see up there. Maybe some of the artists, maybe a little cafe.
Good coffee.
Yeah, just enjoy the rest of this lovely day. It's beautiful.
You know, I guess I had heard about Paris and Montmartre as I was growing up. I just wanted to come to Paris and see what it was like. It was an exciting event for me. I mean, there were tourists. It's just they weren't as many at that time. I think people weren't traveling as much in those days as they do now, you know, and at all times of the year as they do now. What drew us here? I don't know. It's just the mystique, you know. It's the romance of the place. It just has that draw. You associate it with, of course, with the Bohemians and. All right. I'm Jerry Reedy. And
I'm Karen Reedy.
We live in western Pennsylvania, east of Pittsburgh. Yeah.
And so this is not your first trip to Paris?
No, this is the last time we were here was about 10 years ago. And my first visit here was probably about 1955.
I'm an
acting major, and in one of our classes, our professor showed us this film about this woman who was like really lonely, and she just came to Paris and studied abroad, and how she fell in love with Paris, and it kind of changed her life. And so I've always just kind of imagined Paris would be kind of a life-changing experience in that way.
The reason we've come here today, I suppose, it's a box you have to tick if you're going to do Paris, as it were. The Basilique du Sacré-Cœur and Montmartre is one of the places that Paris is famous for, and so it just is something you have to do when you come, I think.
I know it is a very touristy area, but it's also just, it's so beautiful, and all the art and the cafes and the buildings. The Sacré-Cœur is like, it's just so gorgeous, and I feel like this is what would be called like typically Parisian, these little cobblestone streets and cafes and things like that.
There's even more of a tourist element here, of course, but it still has a certain charm. For me, it's suspending the cynicism that knows that that's a mechanism for separating tourists from their money. You have to kind of turn off that natural objection you have, and just kind of rejoice in the fact that people are having a good time. I mean, today the weather is fantastic. It's sunny, it's warm. What more could you ask for?
So we're there, and that's plastically sheet. That red circle.
Well, my name is Robert van der Haar. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a driver of a touring car. This is my touring car.
Aujourd'hui, on a commencé par les quais de la Loire. Ils ont fait une promenade en bateau sur le canal Saint-Martin. Et donc, on les a récupérés au quai de l'Arsenal, à côté de la Bastille. Et de la Bastille, on a mangé au restaurant juste à côté de la Bastille. Et de là, on les a emmenés boulevard Rochechouart. Ils sont montés au Sacré-Cœur à Montmartre.
Barbès, ouais, voilà.
Barbès, ils ont eu un peu de temps libre. Et de Barbès, on est venu ici à la Tour Eiffel. Ils montent au 3e étage de la Tour Eiffel. Après, on rentre sur l'île avec un arrêt casse-croûte en cours de route. Et ça fera rentrer vers 23h.
Minuit.
Et vous avez commencé à 5h du matin?
On a commencé à 5h. On est levé tôt, mais on a commencé à 5h.
6 days from Sweden. I told you before we leave from Sweden Tuesday morning about 10 or 11 o'clock, and we will arrive in Paris about 10 on Wednesday morning.
Oh, really?
We drive all night.
My theory is the day that I come to Paris and I don't enjoy it is the day to get out of the industry. My father drove a tour coach in the 70s and my mother was a passenger. So I grew up hearing all the stories, and every time a travel show came on, I was interested about the travel aspect. And when I first saw the Eiffel Tower on the television, I was introduced to it as though he'd driven past it. So when I finally made a decision to travel in my early 20s, it was the best way that I could see to get around and see the place.
If you've got a guide on, each guide likes to go their own separate ways, different ways. I'm okay with Paris if I go my way, the way I know, but once they start deviating me off the routes that I know, then start sweating.
It's not my favorite city to drive a bus.
How come?
Well, our worst nightmare is the motorcyclist. Yeah, they passing you left and right side, and yeah, it's horrible. It's really horrible. It's really horrible.
Vous avez jamais monté dans la Tour Eiffel en fait?
Moi personnellement non, jamais. J'ai emmené beaucoup de monde, mais j'y suis jamais allé. Je suis toujours resté en bas. J'aime bien être par terre.
Okay. So, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, hello, my name is Anita.
I'm a student in cinema. I'm studying cinema in Paris for about 2 years. And I'm from Romania.
And you've been working on this film now for almost a week, I guess?
Yeah, I've been working for a week on this film about tourists in Paris and mostly people who work with tourists. I know, let's hope.
I hired Anita because despite studying French for 4 years in school and living in Montreal for 3 years as an adult, I can't really speak French. Tourism is big business in Paris. It's an essential part of the French economy. Some people have official jobs as tour guides, waiters, bus drivers, and hotel clerks. Others work on the margins, street entertainers, the men who sell bottles of water or Eiffel Tower key rings.
Étrangers d'un certain âge, ils ont l'image d'un Paris dans le temps finalement qu'ils recherchent et qu'ils retrouvent grâce à l'accordéon. Bah, déjà c'est un lieu touristique, évidemment, c'est là où il y a le plus de monde de tous les pays. Et puis c'est un lieu un peu à part dans Paris, je pense. Le petit village dans Paris, c'est pas la même ambiance que dans les grands boulevards et tout ça. Là, c'est un peu à part, vraiment retiré, un peu le petit village encore comme dans le temps. Oui, c'est mon métier, tout ce qui est accordéon, French cancan, le cliché très parisien pour les touristes. Donc je pense que là, en une photo, ils ont un peu le souvenir de Montmartre 1900, d'antan. Finalement, ce qu'ils viennent chercher, parce qu'ils viennent du bout du monde pour avoir ce Paris d'antan qui finalement n'existe plus. Alors quand ils viennent ici, qu'ils voient ce décor, ça leur rappelle ce qu'ils n'ont pas trouvé dans Paris. Non, j'aimerais bien, j'habite pas loin, mais malheureusement c'est très cher pour habiter ici. C'est hors de prix, donc il faut bien se faire une raison, à moins de gagner le loto, mais ça c'est pas fait encore.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in Montmartre train. We are leaving the Sacré-Cœur to go down to Pigalle. Signore e signori, benvenuti in piccolo treno.
On se connaît tous, il y a un petit... Il y a ma femme qui travaille ici le week-end, qui fait de l'accordéon. Yes. Elle est jeune, mais c'est ma femme. C'est vrai.
Parce que
il la connaît?
Il a remarqué.
Ah, Séverine, ouais. Oui, on s'est connus ici il y a 5 ans. Je la connais il y a 8 ans et ça fait 5 ans qu'on est ensemble.
La petite queue en panache, les petites pattes de derrière, une deuxième fois. Et voilà madame, est-ce qu'il est joli? 2, comme ça, allez-y madame, allez-y madame. Merci à vous, c'est très gentil madame et bonne journée. C'est les touristes qui pensent. Et j'ai des clients qui reviennent 5 ans après, 7 ans après, 6 ans après, 10 ans après, ils sont très contents de me revoir. Ils ont toujours leur petit chien, ils sont très heureux d'en reprendre d'autres, voilà, non, c'est sympa, ouais. Tout en étant un petit chien, ils gardent un bon souvenir de moi, voilà. Et ça me fait très plaisir.
Les peintres qui sont là depuis des années vont dire oui, c'est grâce à nous qu'il y a des touristes, parce qu'on est là. Parce que c'est vrai que les touristes, quand ils viennent, ils ont toujours... ils voient Montmartre comme dans les livres ou comme dans des photos. Ils pensent qu'ils vont retrouver toujours le côté bohème de Montmartre, qu'ils vont croiser un jour un Picasso ou un Van Gogh qui va leur tirer le portrait. Malheureusement, c'est plus du tout ça. Et les peintres que vous voyez actuellement aujourd'hui, ils sont là vraiment que depuis les années 50. C'est assez récent, en fait. Montmartre, la place du Théâtre, avant, vraiment, c'était vraiment une place de village, comme vous avez dans n'importe quel village. Alors, on a un petit visuel. Vous voyez, ça c'était Montmartre en 1904, où on voit des enfants, et vous voyez, la place du Tertre, elle est complètement vide. Ça, c'était vraiment la place de village de Montmartre en 1904.
The artists on the top of Montmartre are actors in a kind of theme park bohemia. The ones in Place de Tetra have permits from the city of Paris. Day in and day out, they sit beside their easels as the crowds shuffle past. The other kind of artists don't have permits. They troll for customers at the cafes and souvenir shops, sketchpads tucked under their arms, keeping an eye out for the police who will tell them to move on if they catch them in action.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Laszlo Paul et j'habite en France depuis 1973. Je suis né en Belgique d'un père hongrois de Transylvanie et d'une mère belge de Belgique. J'étais avec une amie française qui m'a dit, viens, à Paris, il y a une place pour les artistes, réservée aux artistes. Rien à voir avec la place que vous voyez actuellement, bien sûr. Ce n'est pas une place d'artiste, c'est une place de café.
Pourquoi vous ne travaillez pas assis sur une petite chaise avec le chevalet comme des autres?
J'ai fait l'expérience au début. Quand tout le monde, on a dit, maintenant vous allez être favorisés, vous aurez une place pour vous, pour les artistes, mais une place ad vitam aeternam, c'est-à-dire pour toujours. Mais le petit hic, c'est qu'on ne nous dit pas que de l'espace, on avait toute la place qui était pour nous, on gambadait, on courait, on allait à gauche, à droite, on changeait, on était un peu libre. On nous a mis dans des clapiers. Clapiers, c'est pour les lapins, c'est pour l'élevage en basse-cour, sans pouvoir bouger. Celui qui bouge, qui s'en va de son carré, il est fautif. On ne demande pas à un nain de jardin de courir à gauche, à droite, on demande à un nain de jardin de rester en place. C'est ce que je n'ai pas voulu. C'était toujours un peu... Montmartre a toujours été une sorte de plaque tournante pour une sorte de trafic. Et il vaut mieux être un peu comme moi, parachuté, comme un papillon, qui voit ce qu'il veut, ce qu'il aime, et puis qui s'en va. Bon, merci.
Merci à vous. Bonne journée. Soirée.
I'm not a Picasso.
I don't think people would have liked to be drawn by Picasso.
Me too.
I had a bad haircut this weekend. Yes. That's very nice.
That's good.
Serge, who sketched Anita, is from Serbia. Over the summer, Anita and I met people who'd come from Nepal and Australia, Egypt and the US to try and earn a living amongst the tourists. We also came across a lot of people from Romania.
Am venit pe 18 mai.
Acum câți ani?
Nu.
6 ani.
Păi plecăm acasă. Venim în fiecare an, așa, câte o lună, două.
De 6 ani?
Da.
De 14 ani.
De 14? Am calculat greșit.
De 94?
Da, sunt 16.
De 94?
16 ani.
16 ani? De 16 ani de când vin aici. Și n-am învățat decât mersi beaucoup. Mersi că ce mă înjură omul, că vrea să-mi spună ceva. Te omor, mersi beaucoup. Gata, domnule, una știu, una zic. Și când a început Revoluția să se omoare ei între ei, l-am dus și mi-am luat pașapoartele, la pașapoarte din București. Și am plecat în Germania. Și acolo am dus-o, Doamne, Iisuse, Mântuitorul meu, bine de tot. Și eram bine văzut, bine dotat și binecuvântat de Domnul. Și când m-am văzut cu puțin bănuței, mărci și cu mașinica, microbus, în România mă opresc. Și acolo când m-am dus am dat peste comuniștii, comuniștii. Numai firma că a căzut, dar ei sunt în picioare. Te rog eu să ai încredere. N-am făcut nicio politică în viața mea. Politica Viori a fost la mine. Și acum trebuie să-mi iau mașinică. Ia de pătăi, uite, oamenii fotografiază. Ne-am căsătorit în anul 1953. Pe când era o zăpadă mare în România. Și de atunci, ea cu acordeonul, eu cu vioara. Am cântat toată viața noastră.
Deci vine cu camera, mă filmează așa cum arăt.
Dar nu trebuie să fie foarte regizat. Natural, natural.
Sunt Căldarul Florin din Craiova, România. Vânzare de legume, fructe, n-a mers. Am închis magazinul și am venit la Paris, în Franța. La Saint Michel Notre Dame a venit poliția și m-a luat cu tot. Mi-a spus odată de două, ia să vedem. Mi-a spus odată de 2 ori că n-am nevoie, că e interzis în zonă. Și eu am neglijat. I-a spus, băi, un grande artist are voie să lucreze oriunde, în mintea mea. Bun, când m-am dus, au venit și m-au luat și m-au dus la organul de poliție și a spus, băi, voi, polis, îmi permite, arestați o capodoperă de artă, băi. Cum puteți să mutați o capodoperă de artă la poliție? Am avut problemă în Elveția. Am un proces la Strasbourg cu statul elvețian. Mi-au luat poliția toți banii din buzunare pentru că am apărut așa în orașul Lugano și în orașul Zurich. Pentru că asta e considerat cerșetorie. Deci au zis, domnule, ăsta e cerșește. Mi-au luat toți banii, m-au dezbrăcat, mi-au luat toți banii și m-au dat afară pe port. Mă înțelegi? Îți dai seama. Deci nu recomand Elveția, clar, nu recomand Elveția celor ca mine, artiștilor. Le ia banii și poliția. Poliția să-ți ia bani. Îți dai seama. Dar de vreo 2 zile de când s-a încălzit, îți spun, mai stau și pe afară. Am un sac de dormit, dorm pe o bancă, pentru că se face foarte mult economii. Înțelegi? Deci, spre exemplu, în loc să dau 30 de euro la hotel, îi economisesc, îmi iau materiale, îmi iau ăștia și pe ei las restul de bani, îi strâng și eu și trimit acasă la familie, îi strâng și eu. Bienvenue à Tour Eiffel, le monde est à vous.
Dar și tu, dacă te faci actriță, ai față de actriță.
Știu, dar e greu să fii actriță. Am jucat și eu într-un filmuleț de ăsta mic.
E mult până te obișnuiești, dar e când...
Okay, sorry, can you tell me your name again?
My name is Elena.
And are you every day in the gorilla costume?
Almost every day when I come here, almost, because this is my job. I can speak French, Romanian, Gypsy, English, and something in Spanish.
Which tourists are the friendliest or the
Friendly most? It's people English, but from United States English. Yeah. And I think more friendly it's Spanish people.
Oh yeah.
This is my opinion.
And do some people take photos and not pay?
Yeah, many times.
Do you say anything to them? Or?
I cannot say nothing. I cannot be ready with this, and I look up them, give money, I cannot. Who wants give? Who wants not? They don't like.
So Romania is where you were born, and live most of the time. How do you like it in Paris?
I'm more used to in Paris now
Yeah.
than Romania. Because here I have possibilities.
Yeah.
In Romania I have nothing. I don't have possibilities in Romania.
Elena had a couple of children and lived in a Roma settlement on the edge of Paris that was under threat of demolition by the French authorities. To be a tourist means we have more than we need. And wherever large numbers of tourists gather, there are people whose livelihood depends on our surplus. At the Eiffel Tower, there were at least 3 women who had a gorilla costume, posing for photographs. There were people dressed up as Tutankhamun, standing in hot sun for hours. There were Roma women working an angle that usually started with them asking if you spoke English. And there were the souvenir sellers, shaking their big rings full of Eiffel Towers and avoiding the police.
We've been at the Eiffel Tower for a couple days now, and we've been trying to interview the men who sell souvenirs. What have we accomplished so far?
Well, I've learned a lot of things, like lots and lots of interesting information about these people, but unfortunately they don't want to be shown on camera. They're very, let's say, paranoid about cameras, films, and even pictures, even if like they don't even want to be in pictures because they're illegal. I mean, they don't have any authorizations to sell souvenirs. I made friends with lots of those guys. They're the African guys. They are mostly from Senegal, like all of them from Senegal, except for 2 guys from Guinea. And the other category is the Indian sellers who come from, mostly they come from Punjab in India.
Anita told me about a 17-year-old named Ajay who came from the Punjab. Ajay had come on his own to France when he was 13. He shared an apartment near a train station, sold souvenirs at the Eiffel Tower, and sent money home to his family in India. Ajay didn't want to appear on camera, but he agreed to give us the sound of a ring full of Eiffel Towers.
Who's this channel? To France? Non, c'est pas de la télévision.
Okay, I'm Natasha Edwards. I'm a journalist and guidebook writer based in Paris, and I write about Paris, France, mainly for the British press, a bit for the US press. Paris is the most visited city, I think, in the world. Curiously, I mean, there is still an enormous market for travel guides. I mean, just see how many are published.
I keep with me my guidebook. And in it, I keep sort of flyers as I get them. This was a jazz bar that it's like in a cave where they used to torture people in medieval times, and now it's a jazz hotspot, which I guess tortures some people, but not me. So I'm going. I'm gonna have some fun there. I love these Lonely Planet guides. You know, you can look up nightlife as you see it, get the snarky descriptions, and see sort of what looks fun, because it's supposed to look that way, and sort of a tourist destination, and what might actually be some authentic Parisian fun.
I like to present Paris that it's not just a historic city. It's obviously got the most amazing historic sites. I live in one of the historic quartiers. I adore the Louvre, but I also like to say, well, it's actually, there's a dynamic city going on here, and you should also discover what's new. There are new districts going up, for example, in the 13th arrondissement. So that's something that I would cover in a guide like that.
We have a Paris for Dummies book, but we're trying not to carry that around so we don't look like a tourist.
We hide it.
Yeah.
On suit le guide, on est un peu aussi au hasard, mais on suit le guide. Parce
que les guides, il y a une expérience derrière. Je ne suis pas contre le fait qu'il y ait des guides, hein, au contraire. Je suis bouquiniste depuis 20 ans, je m'appelle Jean-Pierre Mathias. Je suis un ancien professeur de philosophie. Moi, je travaille un peu sur les deux, les touristes et aussi sur les livres. Je vends des livres anciens, des choses comme ça, c'est la tradition. C'est la raison du mot bouquiniste vient de book, c'est-à-dire que nous, on vendait au XVIIIe siècle, surtout au XVIIIe siècle et au XVIIe siècle, on vendait des livres qui étaient recouverts de peau de bouc, de mauvais cuir. Donc on était déjà, pour les touristes qui passaient ici, on vendait déjà des livres qui n'étaient pas très bien reliés ou qui étaient interdits par le roi. Et je me suis installé à Paris, c'est une trentaine d'années. J'ai été prof à droite, à gauche, avant que je sois nommé, parce que c'est très long pour se faire nommer ici. On n'a que 270 places.
Alors, les places, c'est limité,
les places, c'est très limité par la mairie, c'est administratif. Il y a un droit à la place. On est nommé à une place par la mairie. Et en général, on ne commence pas ici, on commence dans des quais qui sont plus difficiles. C'est un quai intéressant, moi, je trouve, parce que y a un peu des touristes qui vont, un peu culturels, qui vont sur le Louvre, le musée d'Orsay. Par contre, il y a des quais qui sont plus difficiles parce qu'il n'y a pas de grands trucs en amont ou en aval du quai.
Across the river from Monsieur Mathias's bookstall is the Louvre and its astonishing collection of paintings, sculpture, and tourists. In Jean-Luc Godard's 1964 film, Band Apart, the main characters try to break the record for the quickest tour of the Louvre, 9 minutes and 45 seconds, set by Jimmy Johnson of San Francisco. They sprint through the empty galleries, skidding on the parquet flooring, past Wing Victory, and down the stairs. These days, at the height of the tourist season, you'd be lucky to get to the front of the ticket line in under 10 minutes.
And I expected to be disappointed, but I didn't expect to be angry. And I was angry. You go in there and you make your way to the Mona Lisa, which is very hard to find, by the way. And you get there and it's really tiny, really behind glass, really far away, and about 400 people in front of you in order to see it. And I was mad. I was mad at the Louvre. I was mad at Leonardo da Vinci. I was mad at paint. I wanted to get my money back, and I hadn't paid anything to go to the museum. It was a very disappointing experience.
The crowds that surge towards the gallery where the Mona Lisa hangs walk past several other Leonardo paintings, but only a few seem to notice.
The Louvre is a fascinating museum, and there's still bits where you can go around and you can get lost and you just take a staircase and you'll find yourself in a gallery you've never been to. But you can also get incredibly irritated because there's so many people. This terrible habit that we all have of taking photos of things, and there are people, you don't exist until you've taken a picture of it, and there you are, people snapping away wherever you go around, and it can be very off-putting.
Ever since I replaced my film camera with a digital one, I stopped taking photographs when I'm on holiday. I felt like a camera kept me at a distance from things, observing instead of experiencing. I feel overwhelmed by the number of images that digital cameras make possible. With a roll of film with 36 exposures, you thought about what you would photograph, and you had to wait to see the results. With digital cameras, we're not so discriminating.
And then I think people also have this fear of forgetting. If I don't take a picture of it, I won't be able to remember. Perhaps travellers have this feeling that, you know, they've made an effort to have a journey, to go somewhere, and somehow they've got to keep a memory of it. And of course it is a more personal memory than buying souvenirs. Most souvenirs are absolute crap, and they probably won't even, you know, they're probably made in China, and they're the same things basically wherever you are. And so that at least you might be taking the same image, but you feel you've taken it yourself. You know, it's not a postcard in that sense, perhaps.
Cool. All right, thanks. We'll see you. Do you mind if we take a picture with you? Because we're going to write like a journal entry and say like you got outside Notre Dame. So looks like you're on the other side.
Like anybody who spent time around the monuments of Paris, I'm probably in thousands of photographs that will end up on Facebook or Instagram or sit unseen on an SD card. Just another body in a way of someone's perfect photograph of Notre Dame. It's kind of touching that even in the age of Photoshop, we still use photographs as a form of proof. We once stood in front of this, we once saw that. The English word souvenir comes from the French. It means to remember. Photographs are our personal souvenirs. And of course, photographs aren't the only things that help us remember where we've been.
I bought some coasters actually today. I'm all into that French, you know, theme.
The art. Our souvenirs are here. We've got
Photos,
pictures
yeah.
of people in crazy CBC shirts. It's excellent. That's our souvenir.
This is a point that my sister-in-law said we had to come for a couple of reasons. Number one is for the cathedral itself, but number two, the view of the city from this high point, and number three, all of the tourist shops. We bought an awful lot of stuff here.
What kind of things were you buying?
Souvenirs for our family at home, mugs and shirts and things like that.
Parce que les gens, il y a une angoisse qui est très très profonde chez les gens, c'est qu'ils ont besoin de souvenirs. Pourquoi ils ont besoin de souvenirs? D'abord, il y a la maladie d'Alzheimer qui se généralise, ça c'est du Woody Allen, qui se généralise, que par rapport à l'âge, les gens ils sont pas très sûrs de ne pas oublier ce qu'ils ont vu, et ils ont besoin d'avoir des racines. Mais ils ont besoin rapidement d'avoir des racines, donc ils ont besoin d'un souvenir immédiat. Et ils veulent ramener quelque chose chez eux. C'est un truc humain, parce qu'on n'est pas stable, on est dans le temps nous-mêmes. Donc on a besoin d'un ancrage, d'un truc précis. De plus en plus les gens vont vite, plus ils ont besoin d'un truc qui va les ancrer sur leur propre histoire. Donc le souvenir, ça...
It's funny, one of the paintings that I bought here in 2008, it's of a flower. It's like, she's here right now, and it's a yellow painting with red flowers, and I bought it just randomly. And I was at a friend of mine's recently, and he'd been to Paris like in 2006, and he had the same painting that I did, and it was really funny because we both live in Phoenix, Arizona, and he bought this painting completely different time than I did from the same artist. It was really random, but it was cool because both of our paintings are the same painting, but they're kind of different, and it's really interesting. And she had the same painting here again today, but it was a little bit different. They're all a little bit different, but I like mine the best, so.
Est-ce que vous savez d'où les peintures, les petites peintures avec la Tour Eiffel viennent?
Ça vient de la Chine, ça. Voilà, ça vient. Mais c'est des vrais peintres, hein. C'est des vrais peintres qui font les tableaux comme ça. Mais ça vient de la Chine.
Mais je ne vends pas de choses fabriquées en Chine qui envahissent de plus en plus les quais. Les tours Eiffel, les poulbeaux, je ne sais pas quoi, le chat noir, le moulin rouge, etc. Ça, je ne vends pas. Je vends que des choses d'époque. Donc ça pose un vrai problème parce que ça justement, vous parlez d'authenticité, ça enlève un aspect authentique. Est-ce que c'est plus authentique de vendre des livres anciens et des choses par rapport à notre profession? Moi je dis oui. Il y a des gens qui disent non. Moi je dis oui, je dis ce qu'on vend ça fait partie du patrimoine, des choses qui sont à la France et qui sont l'authenticité de notre profession, même de la profession elle-même. Par contre, si vous vendez des tours Eiffel, des t-shirts, le chat noir, le moulin rouge recopié à 8000 exemplaires fabriqués en Chine, est-ce que c'est authentique, est-ce que c'est pas authentique? Il faut suivre aussi la demande des clients, mais en même temps, il ne faut pas perdre son âme. Ça, c'est le grand débat, mais c'est international, ce débat. Si vous allez à Chiang Mai, en Thaïlande, on vous vendra des ombrelles qui ne sont même pas fabriquées en Thaïlande. Et en plus, il y a des bouquinistes qui sont regroupés pour faire la production en Chine. C'est facile, hein? Vous tapez sur le net, vous demandez 3000 affiches sur le chat noir, ils vous les font. Hein.
Anita and I returned often to the Eiffel Tower, hoping that a souvenir seller would talk to us on camera. But we weren't having any luck. Elena, the Roma woman with the gorilla costume, told us that some of the souvenir sellers were angry with her for doing an interview with us. I knew the sellers had good reasons to be cautious.
You've seen the policemen with the Eiffel Towers? Two cops on bikes who had Eiffel Towers.
Really?
Yeah, they confiscated some Eiffel Towers. They're there. You have a really good zoom.
Every once in a while, police would move through the square on bicycles, and the sellers would clear the square. The sellers would step over a little fence onto a patch of grass. The police could still see them, but if they were on the patch of grass, the police would ignore them. It seemed a bit like a game of tag with an out of bounds. When the police moved on, the sellers would step back into the square. Once in a while, the police would catch one of the men and take his souvenirs. One day we saw a lot of police around the tower and no souvenir sellers in sight.
We started to walk on the Champ de Mars, and there are lots of policemen everywhere, like not the ones on bikes that usually come. They are the ones, like others, dressed in black. They just look bad, like bad people. And there are lots of them just walking around and obviously looking for souvenir sellers.
This man had thrown his merchandise into bushes when the police came. Now he was trying to find them. The souvenirs are a big investment for the sellers, and they couldn't afford to lose them or have them confiscated. Later we learned from Ajay, the 17-year-old from the Punjab, that the police were cracking down and there had been more raids. The year after I was in Paris, the government created a new law against the souvenir sellers, installed riot police at the Eiffel Tower, and arrested hundreds of people.
Somebody bought us this little thin guidebook, basically a day-by-day schedule, and it describes this as the writer says this is his favorite part of town. He said this,
Most romantic.
Yeah, most romantic. This reminds him what Paris should be like. And then he describes this area as he says, I love it and I hate it. And he said, if you could just get rid of all the tourists, it'd be wonderful.
Il y a de plus en plus de touristes, je dirais, peu fortunés, qui sont peut-être fortunés dans leur pays, mais qui ne le sont pas ici par rapport à l'euro qui est très haut. Et donc on a une visite de gens de masse. On rentre dans un tourisme de masse.
Mass tourism has never been more massive. With discount airlines and accommodation websites like Couchsurfing and Airbnb, it's never been cheaper to travel. And rising economies in Asia, South America, and Eastern Europe means more of us can afford to travel than ever before.
Went to the Louvre and that pretty much killed us. It was a Saturday and that was just a terrible idea. In my mind, when I was picturing Paris, I didn't picture the crowds of people or the giant tour buses that are parked outside of chateaus. That I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in Disneyland.
You're going to see big, beautiful things like the Notre Dame or the Mona Lisa or something like that. But the apparatus around it sort of makes you feel like you're being taken in some way, because it's sort of you're traveling, you have a sense of exploration, and then you get there and there's a system in place with lines and scansions and it's a lot of people with cameras and a lot of people that want to sell you toys of the Eiffel Tower.
Every now and then, like a lot of people, like on my tour, it's usually Americans that are doing this. They're like literally like ticking off the things that we have crossed by on their list. I had some lady yesterday that had a brochure and like had all the things we were stopping at, and she like put a check mark next to each one. And I hadn't mentioned the Musée d'Orsay because we don't exactly come close to it. I mean, we can see it from a distance. And I got to the end of the tour, and the only thing she wanted to know, she's like, "Where's the Musée d'Orsay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's right by the Louvre." And she's like, "Oh, so it's right next." And I went, "Yeah, it's right over there." And so she's like, "Oh, okay, cool. So I saw it." I'm like, "Yeah, you saw it."
Perhaps tourists fall into a particular form of behaviour as to, when you feel you've got to see something, there's a certain pressure on you as a tourist. And then when you're writing books or writing guides, there's also this thing that you feel you've got to put in notable places. There can be a place that I like, but I like it because it's ordinary and because it's local, and if you're sort of forced to make a choice of putting in 40 cafes into a guidebook, it's not the sort of place you're going to put in, and yet it's the sort of place you love.
We were on a little walk from a guidebook, and we turned the corner and got into this, and Louisa, her face dropped when she saw this square. In fact, her words were, "Why did it move it? Why did they bring us here?" or something like that. In London, we would never go to the same places as we would here, because that's where all the tourists go. Whereas here we're tourists, so we've got to come to these places. That's the thing, it's de rigueur.
I think tourists, there's an element of fear sometimes to not going to places that aren't well known, to breaking off the main streets, or the feeling that the feeling that you have to do a city.
Years ago, I noticed at Montmartre there were a lot more artists at the time. Then the tourists would seem to look at each different mime and say, "Oh, let's see what this one does, and let's see what that one does." And they understood that every mime did something different, either a musical instrument or a dance. They don't seem to have the same curiosity anymore. Something's changed in the intellectual level of the tourists in Paris.
Bien sûr, il y a des jours où quand je vais me balader ou que je suis en repos, je me dis, oh là là, encore des touristes qui me posent des questions alors que je ne travaille pas, qui vont me demander leur chemin, comment... C'est normal, mais en même temps, c'est tellement sympa de faire découvrir un quartier. Vous savez, quand, je sais pas, si je prends l'exemple d'un Japonais qui va traverser, qui a 20 heures de vol et qui vient ici, c'est toujours un plaisir de lui montrer son quartier.
Sinon, ce qui a changé, c'est que le tourisme, avant, c'était quand même... on avait affaire à une clientèle relativement aisée, des gens qui ont l'habitude de sortir souvent. Et maintenant, c'est devenu très démocratisé, quoi. C'est-à-dire que les gens, avec les voyages qui sont pas chers par avion et tout ça, qualitativement, la clientèle est moins bonne maintenant qu'il y a 28 ans quand je suis arrivé.
Ah bah non, bien sûr que non, je suis là pour travailler, moi je vais pas... Ça me fait plaisir qu'il y ait des touristes, bien entendu, sans ça je ne serais pas venue m'installer près d'un quartier d'un lieu touristique, bien sûr. Non, au contraire, je pense que ça fait vivre un quartier, ça fait vivre un commerce, bien sûr qu'on a besoin des touristes. On l'est nous aussi à notre tour de temps en temps, enfin voilà, c'est... Maintenant tout le monde circule, ça permet d'être un petit peu plus intelligent et un peu plus curieux quand même. Non, très intéressant au contraire.
Ils verront jamais un livre ancien, ils achèteront jamais, ils vont dans un grand restaurant, ils mangeront chez McDonald's, ils visiteront la Tour Eiffel, ils achèteront une Tour Eiffel en plastique, ils rentreront chez eux. Donc c'est ce tourisme-là qui est de masse.
Et vous l'avez vu évoluer?
Ah oui, ça évolue dans ce sens. C'est pas une très bonne évolution d'ailleurs, parce que c'est mondial ça. Le moindre garçon boucher à Paris veut aller en Thaïlande. Donc il ira en Thaïlande, il payera le forfait et il visitera Bangkok, il achètera. C'est la même chose pour les Français par rapport à l'étranger.
Mass tourism affects our experiences as tourists, reducing us to caricatures of badly dressed people snapping pictures of everything. Herded like cattle, our encounters with great art and sacred spaces are like being in a Boxing Day sale at a big box store. Mass tourism also affects the places we visit, driving up prices for the locals and turning neighborhoods into monocultures, with more restaurants with menus in 5 languages and fewer hardware stores and dry cleaners.
Sur la droite du train, ensuite, vous pourrez voir l'arrière de la basilique du Sacré-Cœur. On the right of the train, you can see the back of the Sacré-Cœur. A destra, indietro la basilica del Sacro Cuore.
So my name is Sophie Canipel-Lagout, and we're running a little hotel of 10 rooms in Paris on the top of Montmartre. And we've been running this one from 35 years, since 35 years in my family. It was Amélie Poulain who really changed, I would say, the people the way people was looking to Montmartre. That was really the film who made the change. That film really made people discover Montmartre. And now foreign people are coming much more in Montmartre than it used to be.
Par exemple, ça donnait le réalisateur du film, Jean-Pierre Jeunet, sans le vouloir, hein, parce que lui c'était un enfant du quartier, il a voulu raconter son quartier, Montmartre, comme lui l'imaginait, et ça qui nous a fait une promotion gratuite de Montmartre, sans le vouloir, à travers le monde entier, aussi bien des Japonais, des Australiens, Nouvelle-Zélande, qui demandent où est le café d'Amélie Poulain, qui viennent où il est le café d'Amélie Poulain, où elle est l'épicerie Colligne.
Ça a été un impact.
C'est incroyable.
Je viens tous les jours et des fois 2 fois par jour.
Vous habitez à côté?
Oui, j'habite tout au bout de la rue, donc c'est le café le plus proche, mais aussi le plus sympathique du quartier. Et avant le film, c'était un café de quartier tout à fait normal, enfin vraiment, il n'y avait pas rien de particulier. Et après le film, tout a changé. Et puis aussi la clientèle qui est complètement différente. C'est-à-dire que là, vous avez un maximum de touristes, et notamment beaucoup justement de jeunes japonaises qui viennent en pèlerinage. C'est un lieu de pèlerinage maintenant. Donc on attend que l'esprit d'Amélie vienne du ciel. Enfin, c'est assez étonnant. Ben oui, comme un décor de théâtre. Hein. Enfin, c'est l'image que donnent les touristes. Nous, c'est notre quartier, c'est notre vie, c'est nos boutiques. Donc on est dans une vie tout à fait normale. Mais le regard que posent les touristes nous font effectivement vivre dans un endroit exceptionnel, alors que non, ça n'a rien d'exceptionnel.
The craze for snapping locks onto bridges that has swept across tourist cities in the past few years seems like a useful metaphor for what mass tourism can do to a place, overwhelming and disfiguring it. As tourists, we flock around the famous sites. At the same time, some of us hope to have a real moment, to be treated as a local, to be the only non-Parisians in a restaurant or cafe. Even in a major tourist destination like Paris, it's not that hard to find places without tourists, if you really want an authentic Parisian experience.
Ça, le débat authentique, pas authentique, c'est un faux débat parce que tout est authentique et tout est faux. Alors par exemple, si vous regardez cet immeuble-là, c'est un immeuble, cet immeuble-là est caché par le truc, là, mais cet immeuble, par exemple, c'est Mansart qui l'a fait, au XVIIe siècle. Il a été complètement refait. Donc on peut dire que ça, c'est Mansart qui l'a fait, mais que ça ne correspond plus à ce que c'était à l'époque de Mansart. Donc c'est pas authentique. Même le quai sur lequel je vous parle, là, il a été remanié au XIXe siècle. Là, le goudron, ça n'existait pas, c'était des pavés, il y avait des chevaux, après il y a eu des trams ici. Donc qu'est-ce que c'est l'authenticité, je ne sais pas.
A minute's walk from this staircase are the busy square in front of Sacré-Cœur and a crowd circling the artists and cafes and souvenir shops at the Place du Tetre. If you walk down this staircase, you come to the apartment where I stayed during my time in Paris, on a quiet dead-end street called Paul Favel. A minute's walk from the apartment was a lovely neighborhood cafe, bakeries, greengrocers, restaurants, hairdressers, and a hardware store. But of the thousands of tourists who flock to the top of Montmartre every day, only a handful would leave the guidebooks and crowds behind and walk down the stairs to explore another part of the district. Perhaps Monsieur Mathias, the bouquiniste, is right, and authenticity is a false debate. Everything is authentic, and everything is false. Buying a Chinese-made plastic Eiffel Tower, sold by a man from Senegal, is as real a Parisian experience as Hemingway at the Café de Flore or Anita buying yogurt at the Monoprix. In the end, we choose the Paris we want to experience.
Grazie signora. Hai te piace chi la fa? Alla vorma te macchia. Hai te piace chi la fa?
Last year, Charlie Kaufman was there. He won't be there this year, but still. Okay, so I'm gonna meet famous people, talk to them, maybe pitch. I have 2 projects, but pitch the projects. Meet people, that's the idea.
Well, it sounds great.
My time in Paris was winding down, and Anita had been invited to the talent campus at the Sarajevo Film Festival. She was leaving the next day.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'll sign off for now and call it a shoot. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. That's wonderful.
After Anita left, I went back to the Eiffel Tower one last time. We'd spent a lot of time there over the summer, chatting with the Roma women and the souvenir sellers, and trying unsuccessfully to get one of the men to talk to us on camera. As I sat in a square, this man walked up and began talking to the camera.
Abdel, je travaille ici avec les Indos, je vends des sandwichs. Je vends le canette d'1 euro, les sandwichs d'2 €. Ça fait plaisir, j'y reste en France parce que j'aime trop bien la France. Et voilà, je travaille chaque fois avec les Indos. Je travaille avec l'Africain qui je vends des trucs. Je gagne un peu d'argent, je cherche ma vie. Et voilà. Si l'argent, il est là. Et franchement, trop bien la France. Il pleut un peu, mais après, on discute un peu. Parce qu'il vient à bientôt, en plus, Ramadan. Et après, je vais faire quoi avec les travails, je sais pas. Parce que les Ramadan, c'est 30 jours. Après, ça se fait pas avec l'Africain parce que c'est des musulmans. Et on va après. Merci beaucoup. Et merci. Au revoir. Ciao.
It wasn't a conversation I was hoping to have. I couldn't understand or ask him anything. But in a way, this too seems a useful metaphor. As tourists, we struggle to communicate. We're on the outside of things, peering in, sensing something deeper that we can't quite reach. And there's a gap between our expectations and what we actually experience. Severine said we come from all over the world looking for a Paris that doesn't exist anymore. Drawn to the iconic versions of a place we know from photographs and films and songs. The more of us there are, the more those versions fade. But despite the crowds and the confusion and the disappointments, our nostalgia for a place we've never known remains. On my final night in Paris, I left the camera behind and walked along the Seine. I came across another tourist standing by the side of the river. In a city full of tourists, she was having a private moment, gazing at the Eiffel Tower as the sun set, the river moving past her as it had rolled past the Romans and Bonaparte and Picasso. It's moments like these that make the irritations of mass tourism fall away and remind us how lucky we are to be in Paris. It's moments like these we remember all our lives.
Je viens à toi et je t'imagine en automne avec tes jolies filles et tes beaux garçons au Montmartre. Au Montmartre, il y a une année, je sentais que je t'ai oublié. Alors j'ai imaginé tes rues en pierre, tes ruelles d'aujourd'hui sont-elles les mêmes qu'hier. Et à Paris les lumières brillent, écoutez sur le vent le oiseau si petit, elle chante des ombres et des amours faillis sur les rues. Parle-moi de Renoir qui a marché tes rues pendant les soirs sans dîner et sans argent, lorsque les nuits deviennent plus foncées et froides. Et quand l'automne passe à l'hiver et la neige couvre tout tes rues en pierre, je te chanterai une chanson comme une prière. Pour les petits oiseaux qui chantent sur le vent, qui chantent des ombres et des amours faillis sur les rues.